So your babies, man, your kids. Let's talk about that. Relationship for you as their father. I don't have any kids myself. What is it like raising kids who are labeled as black in America? And has that had any impact on you or them whatsoever? And if not, what do you
Yeah.
think about people who do talk about that?
So, so I will be. I've never held back on reality with my kids, right? So, and I don't believe you should. Like, pretty much since they're little, we didn't even do baby talk, honestly. Um, so we've sort of always taken that approach that we're going to tell them. So now I'm going to let out something on Twitter. Um, my wife is quote unquote white, right? So it's funny, like when I tell my kids that, hey, just so you know, 50 years ago, mommy and daddy weren't able to get married, or wouldn't have been able to get married. And for it's one thing I actually like about those conversations. My kids will say, "Why?" And I don't shy away from explaining that history, right? So like, or even the stuff about natives. Like the eldest, he is very inquisitive, and he will ask stuff about them. And I will tell him like about genocide. Like this is what happened. Like, and here's the other ways we screwed over Native people. Here's the other way the country screwed over Black people. Like you have to be open with it. And I'll still tell him at the end of the day, in spite of all that, it doesn't change anything about who you are as an individual. You are first and foremost yourself. Second, our child, right? You are the apple of our eye, if you will, right? Um, and you have to be proud of yourself. And at the same time, I'm trying this one, but I guess either Rasta, I view it differently, about the same stuff about love, right? Like you have to fully accept all that bad stuff happened, love people around you, and then see that you now have a responsibility. Even as a child, you have a responsibility to make your world a better place, right? So while you're here, so like I've been lucky, like my firstborn, he helps other kids, he mentors other kids at coding, right? And that to me is good. He's doing what I want from him. The other ones, they're doing their own thing. But as they get older, I want them to embrace some of the other stuff. And yeah, I've had the conversation about like racism and like how people judge being black. And I will be honest, like I kept that lesson from my parents about you cannot, it is not okay to be as good as everybody else. It is not. I teach this at work, so it's not just kids, but your standard must never be to be as good as other people. You must be better. You must reach higher. You must push harder. Because, yeah, society will tell you you can't, or society will judge you less. Therefore, even if you're exceeding, they will view you as the same anyway. So keep going, right? So push harder than them. So my kids sort of have a realistic view on that stuff. But then again, they're also really awesome kids. So it makes it easier on them and makes it easier on me. And if anything, what I do focus a lot, so outside of things like making sure they're aware of racism and how that stuff works, is they're lucky now. They're blessed compared to like my generation. Right? Like as I said, I'm in tech when I'm not poor anymore. So now it's actually flipping the conversation on my kids, right? Like you aren't poor. You have like a tablet at 2, you at 6, you have your own laptop and everything. Your responsibility is that when you are in school and you see a child struggling with their schoolwork, you never assume it's because they're somehow less, right? Your first assumption is they somehow have less. And therefore, because you have more, one, I expect you to be already outperforming them. So that should be a given. And I'll be honest, it is a given that you must be outperforming those in your class. You have so many advantages thrown at you relative to other kids around you. So performing better is a given. Now, let's make you a better person as an individual. Your job now is to help others, right? So yes, you're outperforming, but you must lift others up alongside yourself.
Going along with that, would you be in favor of a service requirement for public school students?
I like that. Yes, I would.
I
I
just don't
love
understand why we don't have it already, you know. And I've run many a mentorship program myself as well, and help students get involved in different service opportunities and run different service projects. And it's always so rewarding for students, and I think it's such a valuable experience for them to get that hands-on experience,
it.
and see the value of service like actually being created by their own hands, you know.
Yeah, I was thinking while you're saying it, like what kind of community. But as I think about it, it makes sense in every community because even in a poor community, that service might be, hey, let's go clean up our neighborhood, and that is actually a very valuable. And if it's in a wealthy community, that service could be, hey, let's go and clean up a different neighborhood, right? Like so, maybe that one wouldn't have as much punch, but like, yeah, it does make sense. I think that sense of ownership, well, not even ownership, involvement, and that shared responsibility. But for say the US, I find that's one of the challenges, right? Like when a culture is built on individualism, the idea of service to your to your neighbor, uh, doesn't really stand in the ethos, right? And it's kind of weird because America was built on like Christianity, and Christianity was that's like a central principle of Christianity. So it's very weird that in the secular culture of America, that collective responsibility for your neighbor got dropped from Christianity.
I mean, it
So,
apparently got dropped from the concept of patriotism altogether.
absolutely, that is very weird to me. Like, and I think that would be so much healthier. And I agree with you. I think building that kind of culture, but you would run into the political opposition of, well, no, my kid is an individual. It's not their responsibility to care about other kids, which to me is really dark, but sure, that's something that exists.
It's so dark, man, and we just we can't accept that. I just feel like we just absolutely cannot
So what are you
accept
gonna
that
do?
response. Like,
What are you gonna do? Because that's the thing I was saying. Like there are people with very different politics,
I mean,
and
I know we have the KKK out here still, you know. So
of course,
I get it, but like ultimately, we do have to draw a line somewhere and decide that these are our common values. I think that like accepting the objective reality that we're all connected and we all live in within the same borders, and that how we treat each other matters. I mean, that's just the bare minimum. We
but I don't
if we
think I
can't
think
even
you will
agree on
struggle to
that.
get that. Yeah, I think you will struggle to get that agreement. Yeah, people want to secede, right?